expert, Pierre de Vos. He joins us from our studios in Parliament. A very good evening to you and thank you for your time. Firstly, what's your reaction to today's ruling? Is this a blow for justice?
Well, obviously there are two issues. Firstly, the Constitutional Court, in their judgment that you referred to earlier, in which they said they cannot now decide on the matter or the substance of the matter, they clearly said that it's really for the government and the party who set up the commission, that is the presidency, to try and make arrangements for funding, because that would be more fair, and I think very few people will disagree with that. Secondly, the Commissions Act that the Minister refers to actually does say in section 11B4, I think, that the President can provide for any matter that he thinks is necessary for the successful completion of the investigation by the Commission. So it seems to me that it actually does provide discretion to the President to give funding if he so thinks. So it's obviously for the President to decide, but if the President decides not to, it's not because there is no legal obligation or legal authorization for that kind of funding to be given.
Government doesn't seem to want to set a precedent by funding the legal costs. Do you think they should actually come to the party taking into consideration the seriousness of this issue?
Well, it's difficult because on the one hand, of course, the lawyers are actually earning quite a lot of money out of this commission, but it does seem to be a problem that some of the parties before the commission are protected and have their interest advanced by lawyers, while the other parties, especially poor representatives, people who have actually been affected as victims or families of victims and so on, they have no now any representation and they are not protected and their interests are not advanced. And that seems to be a little bit unfair, and that could create, of course, perceptions at least that the process is not fair and credible, and the credibility of the outcome can be questioned by those people and others who think that this is not a fair outcome.
Earlier, Justice Minister Jeff Radebe said that representation was not necessary for the miners. They didn't need their own legal representation because there's evidence leaders at the commission. Is that sufficient?
Well, the evidence leaders and these evidence leaders of the Marikana Commission are actually highly respected lawyers, so they, one cannot fault them and say that they won't do their job. But there is a qualitative difference between them trying to present evidence on the one hand in an impartial manner, and having legal representation that is actually going to look out and advance the interests specifically of their clients, which the police, Lonman and all the other powerful parties at the commission, they have those lawyers, but the disempowered and the vulnerable people who have been affected by the massacre, they don't have the lawyers. So that there seems to be an inequality of arms, so to speak, as the Constitutional Court referred to it, and that is what people are concerned about.
What's the next step for the miners and their legal teams? What can they do?
Well, the legal team said that they are going to argue the substance of the complaint that went on an urgent basis to the Constitutional Court. Constitutional Court rejected it because they said they are not going to deal with this matter as a matter of urgency. I'm not sure they're going to be successful because I'm not sure that there's actually a right anywhere in the Constitution that says that if you're in the front of a commission, not a court, that you are entitled to state-funded legal representation. Or they can try and get other funds. As you said, there's a fund that is being set up, especially and asking members of the public to donate money to that fund to help to fund the lawyers so that this commission can act in a fair manner.
Now, on the one hand, we have this Marikana Commission. On the other hand, we have the Arms Deal Commission, where the state is going to foot the bill for former President Thabo Mbeki and other cabinet ministers that are on that witness list. What's your comment there if you look at comparatively?
Yes, well, actually, it's not as clear-cut there either, because the minister today said that they will not fund separate legal fees for private lawyers to represent somebody like President Mbeki, former President Mbeki. They said that state attorneys and state lawyers will represent the government as a whole, which seem like a fair outcome, and it will save the taxpayers a lot of money, so that sounds like a good idea. Unless, of course, there's a different interest between the former President Mbeki and the government now. If they are not actually on the same page, if one of the two parties might have done something that they shouldn't have done during the arms deal, then that could create a conflict for the state lawyers who have to represent both interests. I have no idea if that's the case, because we don't actually know, of course, what happened during the arms deal process.
Thank you very much for your time and insight. That was constitutional law expert Pierre de Vos.